Host this morning, but hey everyone, welcome to Real Estate Tips and Tricks. I'm Angela Fazio. This is my beautiful host, Sam Staskall, and today I am so excited to talk with Jessie Lockhart. She is an Instagram guru. She's been in business for a couple of years. This last fiscal year, she did $7 million in real estate, so she kind of knows what she's doing, which is awesome. Jessie, welcome, and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then get us started with about how to build relationships through Instagram.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I think it's so fun just to get, I could chat about Instagram all day long. I love it so much. But yeah, so I got my license a couple of years ago, and I started on a team that was very traditional, very cold call, internet lead, open house, that type of stuff. And I just always knew that was not something that I wanted to do. I wanted to really build a business through social media. And that team was not necessarily in full support of that idea. And so I really struggled for the first little while in real estate. About 6 months after that, I ended up joining Revelation, and I met Stephanie Mainville, who is kind of my partner in crime, so to speak. So I was introduced to her, and at that time she was in the midst of trying to create her own team. And when I met her, we just clicked, and I just knew that was where I was supposed to be. So I joined her Mainville & Co. And then a few months later, we found ourselves at EXP, which was such a great thing, such a great move and great decision for all of us. But through the Mainville & Co. group and just being around like really like-minded people, because social media is our thing, that like, all of our girls, that's our stuff. All our trainings are mostly about social media. We have monthly content days. Like, that's just what we do is social media. But yeah, believe it or not, it was actually through like TikTok that I got my big break, so to speak. When quarantine hit and everyone TikTok was the cool thing in like March and April last year. I just went on there and I started just creating videos about first-time home buying stuff, because that's my main target audience, are first-time home buyers. And, most people think you need a 20% down payment or just like perfect credit, or you can't have any debt and all that. And I just started addressing that on TikTok and on Instagram. And from there, just kind of blew up, I guess, just had a lot of people reaching out, and I was able to do 7 million last year. So it was a really cool thing.
Well, then we're ready to learn from you for sure, because that is tremendous. That's awesome.
Thanks.
So share with us your philosophy, just anything that you can do to help our audience maybe dial it in with their social media.
Yeah. So my biggest thing that I could ever teach, like if I could only teach one thing about social media or Instagram in general, is leading with value. A lot of agents get caught up in the just sold, just listed, under contract, sold over ask or whatever on Instagram, and they post all these pictures of these pretty houses, which is great. We want to show our resume, so to speak, to a certain degree. But at the end of the day, that's not valuable for anybody. Someone will double click, double tap that, and then scroll on like they didn't even see it so fast. And so I think it's so important to lead with value when it comes to social media, because as real estate agents, we still have a value proposition, right, that we need to get across to market ourselves to people. And the value that you're bringing has to be something that your ideal clients actually care about. And so that's that's where I learned from posting about not needing 20% down or all that stuff that first-time homebuyers usually believe. That's where I learned that, is because everyone responded to it so well. And everyone's like, oh my God, I had no idea that I could buy with less than 20%, because everyone and their dog who's older than me says that you have to. So I think leading with value is the biggest thing. Figure out what is important to the people you're trying to target on social media and consistently talk about that. And through stories specifically, I think that stories is such a good way to connect with your audience, both on a personal and on a business level. I'm a big time advocate for mixing personal and business content because I want people to get to know who I am outside of just being a real estate agent. I want them to, connect with me on the fact that I have 3 dogs, that I'm a millennial, that I'm married, and, all this stuff about just my life, because that's how we build those relationships, is we make those connections with people based on just similar interests, or we're at similar phases in our lives. And I think that stories really expedites the like, know, and trust factor. So we work with people when we like, know, and trust them. And stories is just such a good way to expedite that because, maybe they're not meeting in person, or you might not have the opportunity to meet people in person. Like I've met so many people from across the valley just through social media, not just here in the East Valley. So I think stories is just such a good way to, expedite that process, and people get to know you and they feel more comfortable with you. And then they're most likely, going to give you a call when they're ready to buy or sell.
So we have said previously in other conversations with people that are heavy into Instagram that stories are people that already follow you, right? And that reels should be used to capture a new audience. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. So
Definitely.
how often are you posting to either stories or to reels?
I try to show up on stories at least every day.
Okay.
Now I get that there's a ton of people out there who have set their own limitations in their mind. Well, I don't look good on camera. I don't do well on camera, or I'm nervous, or I don't know what to talk about. And those are all valid things. Everyone who has gotten to a point that's comfortable being on camera was once like, I don't like being on camera. And it just takes, you just have to do it. I don't know what else to say.
People don't really care what you look like.
Yeah, more people, like, you're your own worst critic, right? Like, you're going to be criticizing yourself way more than anybody else would. And when you finally learn that, then it becomes a lot easier to show up. But I like to try and show up at least once a day on stories, show my face, not just showing pictures or boomerangs or graphics or something, because I want my people to see me for that day. My audience has gotten so used to it that sometimes when I don't show my face on stories, I get DMs and I'm like, hey, are you okay? Today? Or when I do finally post, everyone's like, yay, like I was wondering what you were doing today or something. Like, it's just
That's
so
great.
silly. But yeah, I try to show up at least every day on stories. As far as like reels go, I wish I could say that I have like a schedule like locked down and I follow it to the nail, but I don't. I myself am trying to be a little bit more consistent about using reels because I do think that it really brings a lot more eyes to your profile, which, could bring more business, whether that's through actual sales of your own. I've actually created a referral list for across the country of other agents who have found me on social media. So if I have someone that's reaching out to me from another state, I can refer them to that person and then make that referral income, as well as just, attracting agents to EXP and that type of thing. So it's not just for buyers and sellers. There's a lot that you can do,
I think that people forget that if you are getting really good at social media and you have a following, that you can actually have a robust referral business because you're not limited to just Chandler or whatever, I think people forget that, especially people who aren't like interacting with their audience. Like if you're interacting with your audience, you realize, oh my God, I'm talking to somebody from Georgia. I'm talking to somebody from Northern California. Then if you can get organized with that, that could really boost your business on the referral side.
Yes.
I know most people don't even think about that.
Yeah. And I mean, it may not pan out. You never know, but it might pan out. Last year, I had a referral close up in Oregon, and I've had a handful of people close more like in the West Valley. Like I live in Santan, And so I'm pretty far away from everyone else. And so I've referred a couple people out over in the West Valley and they've closed. And it's just like, it's money I didn't really have to work for. I just naturally attracted them. And then I referred them to a great person and that person got them closed. So
yeah, that's awesome. So
yeah.
can you give us some practical examples of value that you, other than like you gave the no down payment, or you don't need 20% down, but can you give some really practical examples of some of the things that you do when you lead with value?
Yeah. So, I mean, for my sellers, when I'm trying to attract seller leads, I will post about home value a lot, especially right now where values are just climbing and climbing. People are genuinely curious. And so I use a site called HomeBot, which I think is pretty common. But I will post about that or share about that in my stories. And I'm at a point where I have the swipe up feature on Instagram. And so I can just put that link there and have them swipe up and they can add themselves. And then, then they get that value that way. So that's one thing. I think another thing that's important is just showing what the process looks like if they were to work with you. Mm-hmm. So talking about my process personally, I get them on a buyer consultation via Zoom, or if it's a listing appointment, then we schedule a listing appointment. And I just walk them through what that would look like if they were to work with me. And then anytime I'm like going to a client inspection, I will post about that or share about that on stories. Anytime I'm going to a closing or something, just outlining kind of what it would look like to work with me. And then the last one would just be how do I get started working with you? Some people might just be ready. They might have been watching for a while and they're just ready to take the plunge. And so sharing how they can work with me. So sharing how they can schedule a call with me or what it looks like to schedule a listing appointment or things like that, just making it easy for them to know how to work with you.
That's so smart, because if you don't ask for the business, people are like, ask me, ask me, ask me. That's what they want. Ask me. Like, even when you're working with people, ask me to write a contract. Like, if you put it out there, okay, this is what comes up next. So like when I was selling 100 years ago, I used to love the formal buyer presentation. When buyers were giving like buyer signals, they were like placing furniture and they're telling which room was their kids or whatever. I would say, hey, you know what? It looks like you're getting close to making a decision. Maybe it's not this house, but you're getting close. So this is what's going to happen next. These are the things that I do for you. And these are the things you have to be prepared to. And they go, that like gives them permission to write a contract. You're giving them permission through your social media to say, I want to work with you, push the button or do whatever. That's awesome. That's probably the best piece of advice I've heard in a long time.
Yeah.
Tell them how to work with you.
And I think a lot of people, some people aren't very good at meeting people that they don't know. And they're very intimidated when it comes to real estate and finding an agent that they're not familiar with. Like I'm not from where I work, so I don't know a ton of people. So to make that connection, via Zoom, how you said you do a Zoom for a buyer consult is a good idea, because that way they're not just showing up at the house and meeting you for the first time, because some people are really not people
nervous.
They're not, they're nice, wonderful people, but they're not good at making that connection to a stranger right away, so they're really awkward feeling, which is where I use humor, because it kind of breaks through that awkwardness of they don't know me.
Yeah. And I mean, what's nice is I feel like I've already, to a degree, broken the ice with them because of me showing up constantly on stories. Mm-hmm. Like, people probably know way more about me than I realize, just because of how much I share and how much I talk about on stories. Yeah. So I am okay showing up on a Zoom and not knowing these people. But if they're okay with showing up on a Zoom because they like, know, and trust me because they've already gotten to know me based on social media, then I can work with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I think that if anyone's out there and you're hesitant to get all in with social media, that's the thing you've got to keep in mind. People will feel like they know you already before they even meet you.
Yep.
That is the magic of social media. So however you want people, which should be your authentic self, by the way, you want to attract people who are attracted to your authentic self. So just show up on social media. They're going to feel like they already know you before they actually know you. It's awesome.
Yeah. And I think it's nice because just showing up as your authentic person, like I am mature enough, I guess, to understand that not everyone who follows me is going to pick me to be their realtor. Right. They might follow me, or they might follow some other people on social media, or they might already have a realtor. I don't know. But I have the abundance mindset, I guess, to know that the people that are attracted to me are going to end up working with me because they like, know, and trust me. And then there's always going to be those people who are just there for a good time, and then they go with someone else. But ultimately, you know, people who want to work with me want to work with me. Yeah. And I've had my fair share of like no shows on Zoom calls where they've scheduled a call and then they don't show up. Like I've gone through that just like any other person would go through that. So it's nothing that I'm doing that's like, it's not a magic pill or anything, but like I feel my close rate is a lot better because people know me, because I've built a relationship over time on social media versus calling them one time and trying to get their attention for 2 minutes to try and schedule an appointment with them.
It's way better to get a no-show on Zoom than to drive 45 minutes and get a no-show.
Right.
So much better.
Yes. And sometimes it's just like, oh, like I was in the middle of something and they didn't show up, and it's like, oh, cool, I can just go back to what I'm doing.
Yes. So do you have any other advice for people in any area, whether it be another tip to add value or anything else that has to do with social media?
I just think, I think you just have to go for it. Too many people get caught up in their mind and say, I'm too old, or I don't know enough, or what do I talk about? Or I don't like being on camera. And I think you just have to overcome that mindset. You kind of have to have a mindset shift when you go to use social media, because and it goes for anything, right? You have to have a certain mindset and just ready to accept that you're going to have to fail forward. I've had plenty of times where I've had to fail forward, even using social media. Like, it's not all rainbows and unicorns, but you have to put yourself in that mindset and get over yourself, I guess. That sounds mean, but you have to overcome whatever it is that's blocking you from being on social media, and just accept that you don't know everything, and seek out people that are doing what you want to do and follow them, gain inspiration from them. Stephanie and I have a podcast. It's Socially Modern. You can find it anywhere. Like we talk about all of this kind of stuff on our podcast. So that's a good place to start too. Just plugging myself there.
Yes. Of course. Yeah. It's called Socially Modern. You can find it on anywhere there's a podcast.
Yes. Yep.
Awesome.
I just want to add in here that I think a lot of, especially older agents, don't like to do videos. Oh, you're not older. You're like my age.
I'm going to be 50. I'm going to be 50 in a couple of
months. You're a little older. But a lot of them are caught up on how they look for videos. So I just want to throw out there that if you have not downloaded Snapchat, maybe now's a good time. You don't have to use Snapchat, but you can use the filters. I mean, I use them all the time because I don't wear makeup every day. So I use a filter from Snapchat to make it look like I have makeup on. And everybody's like, oh, your makeup looks great. I'm like, oh, thanks. I mean, there are tools available to make you look as fabulous or ridiculous as you want to look, so don't let that hold you back from making video, because there are things that you can fake it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think whatever gets you comfortable to start, whatever you need to do to get you comfortable to just start doing it, do that, and then adjust as you go. Eventually you get comfortable enough to where you might not need a filter, or maybe you don't want a filter or stuff like that. So whatever you
look at this. Look at this. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's Julie.
How cool is that? That is so cool.
I'd like to point out that the old lady had to get her glasses on to read that.
I know. Oh my God. Well, I'm going to tell you, Jessie, I learned a couple of things, and I was reminded of others, in my efforts to get halfway good at social media. So I'm very grateful for your words of wisdom. I particularly like the part is you have to tell them how to work with you. I love that part. I hope that people went, oh my God, if you just add that little, it's, in your business, sometimes it's these little quarter turns that make this big difference in your business. And I think that's a quarter turn. That was a gem right there.
Yeah. And I think just to add to that a little bit, I really think I get in my own head a lot sometimes where I'm like, I feel like I've been asking too much lately. But in reality, you're probably not asking enough. So if you ever get to a point where you're like, I'm probably asking too much or showing them too much, I mean, you just never know where anyone is at in their journey at any given time. And so you can't not share that because you might lose yourself some business. So you have to just keep asking for it. Just keep asking.
How many followers do you have on Instagram, Jessie?
I'm at 13.8 thousand.
Nice.
Wow.
I watch my numbers on Instagram more than any other platform I'm on because it pisses me off.
Will you guys please go follow Sam so she's not so pissed off?
I watched the number. It's like, oh, it went up by 3, and then somebody dropped me. It doesn't happen on Facebook. You don't see it on Facebook, but on Instagram, it's like somebody unfollowed me. So then I start thinking, well, what did I do? What did I do? What did I say that they left me?
Oh, you're in your own head.
One post and it goes down by 3, and I'm like, what the hell?
Okay, so if you want to follow Jessie, how do you follow you?
My Instagram is Miss Jessie Lockhart, and that's my handle on any platform. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Instagram is where I'm most active. I'm starting to regain some traction on TikTok though. But yeah, Instagram is Miss Jessie Lockhart.
Okay, and you, Sam, so that you don't have to be so angry.
I think mine's Sam Staskell Sells on Instagram.
Yep, it is.
Yeah.
And mine's Iconic Power Couple. So look us up, follow us. Thank you guys for listening. Jessie, you were amazing. Thank you so much for your wisdom. Sam, thank you for being my beautiful host.
Oh, thanks.
All right, I'll see you guys later.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.